Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I hope that you're doing well, and I hope that wherever you are is doing good for you. Today is episode 10, and today's episode is The Change is Happening. That's what I'm going to be calling it. It's a new era in the human existence. I saw it. I'm seeing it happen, like in front of me. I'm seeing people who in the past may have not been I don't want to say open. They may have been open. They just didn't know. They weren't aware. And I think that COVID backfired, honestly, on the oligarchy. Granted, the people who were wealthy out there in the world, who became 80% wealthier during COVID, it backfired. There is a seemingly awesome change happening around where people are tired of fighting. And what can occur during that moment is one of two things. This beautiful change can happen, and it's happening. I mean, literally, I see it happening around the world. I see, and this is based on technology. And I've been having these very long discussions and I've been doing these interviews with a gentleman, and he's known as the mayor of the world. And he is, he has a show on YouTube, and we've been doing episodes. I've done 3. I'm doing my 4th one with him now. We're at almost 8 hours of information. We just can't stop. And so, just based on the weird things that are happening around the conversations that I'm having, as well as the way that I can see how people are reacting to each other and interacting with each other. And I don't think it's my perceptual value or like, oh, I'm thinking differently, and so I see it differently kind of an idea. It's more like, like I said, people are tired, and there's 2 things that can happen. You either have a bunch of people who get super angry very quickly and want to become their captors, in the sense that they become the domineering, empowered group. And what that usually does is spoil the overall idea of what was being asked about in the first place. So the change is happening. And the change is this thing that we may not recognize it until it happens. Like, until once we have a general AI that they agree with, and the world has been told that we have this new thing called artificial general intelligence, and on the way to working towards super general intelligence, which at that point, it's called the singularity. For those of you who may not understand what the singularity is, the best way to express it, I guess, would be that we create something that is its own autonomous character that has a way of thinking and its creative possibility is greater than ours. At least the way that we see creativity within the third dimension. Because many people think that the work is the action, and it's not. It's the intention and drive that flourish the things, and that's anything. And if your intention is to create peace and have a world where people are not hurting one another and taking from one another, but instead finding the best parts of themselves and giving it away freely, as we're moving towards it anyways, people will start to understand that very soon. That, and I said this before, we're going to get to a place where they're going to give us money to live and be, and that's going to ruin a lot of people, because a lot of people don't know who they are. And if you can't do the normal stuff, like regular job, like an electrician or a fireman or anything, because robots are taking over, then you need to recognize that you need to find like what's beautiful about you. And part of today's message is also inclusiveness, like radical acceptance. And it's very hard, because then that means that you accept somebody for who they are and where they are, and you don't need to be involved for that evolution to happen. It's going to happen with or without you. We are part of the process. It's nice to be part of the process. But if you think of like the grass growing or the ants or any part of the flora or fauna that we are connected to, you never think about it. Just like you don't think about your breathing when you're living your life normally until you start breathing exercises and then start to really connect to yourself and your body. Wim Hof and all those concepts. Radical acceptance of yourself. Radical acceptance of where you are and who you are. Because if you can truly accept the responsibility of your actions in the past, then you'll be able to have something that has weight to it in the future. I think I mentioned this in another pod, but a man who was on his deathbed was asked, "Are you a good or a bad man?" And the man answers, "I don't know." And he wakes up later saved and not dead. And he asks, "Why did you save me?" And the man said, "Do you remember the question I asked you?" He said, "Yeah, you asked me if I was a good man." And the guy said, "You said, I don't know." And he said, "Well, yeah, I know." And he goes, "Well, that's why I helped you." He says, a man who is a good man would never say yes or no. He would only say, "I don't know." Because a real man is a man that looks at himself and questions himself. Because no action is perfect. And so if no action is perfect, the strategy is to try and create the best movements so that you don't fall into the traps of, call it the matrix, this world that we're living in. And I don't mean like the either the world that was created by man, the Matrix, but the Matrix that we're living in, this video game that we're living in, that we're becoming more and more aware of with more and more technology. And the more and more we have technology, the less and less we have humanity, the more and more we have to recreate the idea of this story so that we can even out this mechanical, biological machine that finds a wavelength of connection to this point. And then that point is the singularity. That's the point where the computer is faster and smarter than us by an exponential rate, 5,000, 10,000 minds all in one little tiny chip, if you will. And then the ability for that thing to be able to do its own creations. Which then, if that's the case, production is out the window. I mean, everything's out the window. Because there is no time and space for this thing called the singularity. And if that's the case, then that means the singularity has been here the entire time while we were evolving to a point of being able to understand this thing called the singularity. And then what is the singularity? I believe it is when we ourselves become conscious light, so that our thoughts become our thing. And then all of a sudden we become creators. And so that we are still always within that same creator, creation, creating, creation. Right? And so we're living within that. It's like a DNA that is a never-ending spiral that never goes, it never changes, it's this beautiful thing that is changing and not changing and being and not being and seeing and not seeing and touching and not, so the thing that we're living within, but it's like all of those things happening, right? And we're sort of kind of somewhere in the center of that. And in that, there's some explosion of time and space and 13.5 billion, whatever, and we don't even know. Like, there's been a study that says that we might just be looking at the tips of time and space through these dips of what would be considered these wavelengths, right? So all we're seeing is the tip from one tip to the other tip. So it may be like this never-ending thing. And if that's the case, which it seems to be, what a beautiful experiment. What an amazing journey. What an amazing creation. I mean, think about this. It's a creation that continues to create infinitely. And it cannot stop. It will not stop. It has been made to create. And those things that create are made to create. Like a flower that comes out of the ground. The seed was made to go into the ground was made to wet the seed. Everything is a conjunctional piece, as you and I are conjoining pieces to this puzzle. And it is our responsibility now that we know these things to go out and do the best we can to not create a foul odor from our behaviors. Because we now know, like, I'm a video game character in a game that was made by me and you, and we were created by this creation machine that thinks for itself, creates for itself, and it has a responsibility, just like we have a responsibility. And it's like it's a shared piece of the pie. Everyone shares all pieces of the pie. All pieces of the creational aspect. From being the creator, to creating the creation, to being the creation, to creating the creating creation. Starts over again. Creation, creating, boom, 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 boom. Almost like a motor, like pistons all working in sync together. Like, it's all around you. The answers are all around you. That you're in this thing. And the thing that you're in is this thing of amazement, this thing of awe. So it's like, whoa, I get it. Oh, do I get it now? And so if that's the case, you now have responsibility. Responsibility to yourself and to the rest of us. Just like we have the responsibility for ourselves and for you. Because if that's not the thing, then we're not in that thing. And then all the things around us wouldn't work the way they do. But they do work that way. And they are that thing. And there are the universal constants. There are things that you will never manipulate in your life. At least that's what we think. But what happens when we get to a place of technology where we can manipulate the 7 or 11 universal laws? What happens then? We're finding out. We're coming to that culmination right now of the people who are trying to make it work and the people who are trying to not make it work. The people who have intention of positivity and love and the people who have no intention of positivity and love. And so those 4 factors are the duality in which we live within. See what I'm saying? And so that is this amazing creation machine where I feel at the end of the whole entire thing, you get to walk on stage by yourself. It's just you, and you're carrying this amazing award. And instinctively, you can see this amazing art project that's happening, and you know that your piece fits perfectly in this one spot, and all you have to do is go. And then as soon as you do that, you recognize that you're in the audience watching yourself at the last second of putting it in, and then seeing the entirety of the story and everybody getting to see that story as well, and the humanity that is learned from that story. And it's not just humanity, it's creationism. It's full-on imagination creation in the inception of the thought after the intention. Wow. So with that, my friends, please go out into the world, do something nice for somebody else. And if you can't, do something nice for you. It does start with you. Number 2, don't get caught up in all the crazy all over, because then you're going to just end up crazy as all hell, bro. Experience the experience. Number 3, please, if you would not mind, like, share, subscribe. Send this out to somebody who likes to see it or needs to see it. And again, thank you all for the people who are reaching out, who want to be on the show, who are setting up in the future. If you'd like to be on this little thing and do an interview with me, it would be my absolute honor and pleasure to have you be a guest. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sharing. And I love you all so very much. And I will see you all on the other side.